If you all want to, I can read the Indiana Supreme Court decision regarding lyrics. So while we wait for today's trial to begin, press 1 for, go ahead, read it while we wait, so we know what the actual standard is now in Georgia. Or 2, no, we want to keep listening to pause music and elevator music. Good morning, get back with me and Robert Harris, Good Credit Records, Heather Mosher, and everybody else who is here. Still rocking the bonnet. Yeah, for you who wonder what is on his head, this is a bonnet for my hair. I discovered that this time of year over here, the air is so dry. It is so dry. And it actually helps with having that on. And all right, seems like we are doing some kind of reading at least. Let's see here. Oh, sorry, that. Okay, let's see how we can do this a bit bigger. In the Supreme Court of Georgia, decided March 5th, 2024, Baker v. the State. Warren, Justice Warren. Appellant Morgan Baker was convicted of malice murder in connection with the shooting death of Tamarko Head. In his sole enumeration of error, Baker contends that the trial court abused its discretion under OCGA, which is commonly known as 403, by admitting into evidence a portion of rap music video. A portion of a rap music video. As explained below, we agree that the trial court's admission of the video was an abuse of that discretion, and because the state has not met its burden of showing that the error was harmless, we reverse Baker's conviction. 1. A. The pre-trial ruling to admit the rap music video into evidence. Before trial, Baker filed a motion to exclude from evidence a music video of the rap song Ghetto Angels by Kobe Crawford, a rap artist known as No Cap, which was, quote, filmed in early 2019, and showed Baker, quote, holding a semi-automatic pistol with an extended magazine, end quote. The motion argued, among other things, that the video's probative value was substantially outweighed by the danger of the unfair prejudice under Rule 403. After hearing on the motion, the trial court ruled that a 33-second long portion of the video was admissible, concluding that it was relevant to establish Baker's, quote, identity, end quote, and the relationship between Baker and Crawford. The court also ruled, without explanation, that the, quote, short clip was more probative than prejudicial. And this has, it has so much in common with what was said pre-trial about these lyrics and video. So, yeah. Megan, jury has to be paid by Fannie Willis. 42 days of trial at $50 a day. No, they are actually being paid $25 a day. So it's even worse. Lyrics or not, that jury is tainted. Yeah, I agree. B, the trial. The evidence presented at Baker's trial showed the following. Baker was close friend with Crawford and worked as his road manager, traveling with him on various concert venues to assist with his performances. On the night on July 5th, 2019, Crawford, Baker, and several other members of Crawford's entourage drove in a black van to a nightclub in Warner Robins, where Crawford was scheduled to perform. According to Crawford's music manager, Rodney Dunn, let's see here. Nope, haven't started yet. And the owner of the nightclub, the van parked behind the nightclub, and Crawford, Baker, and the other members of the entourage hung out in a VIP room in the nightclub until Crawford performed, around 1 or 1:30 a.m. The performance ended around 2 a.m. when the nightclub was scheduled to close. And Crawford and some of the members of the entourage left through the rear exit and got back in the van. Meanwhile, patrons left through the front door of the nightclub. Yeah, I mean, this is the decision is 59 pages, but so I will read it until the trial stream starts, and once it starts, I will continue. So we will find out more about this. Oh, good morning, JC. Let's get the lights up, fam. Yeah. Remember, thumbs up and everything. And for you who just joined, we are waiting for the trial stream to start. And while we do that, I am reading the Indiana Supreme Court's decision on allowing lyrics and music video into trial. Which I assume is one of the things that today's motion hearing will be about, because the prosecution has already shown music videos, read lyrics to connect Jeffrey Williams to the crime. And Indiana Supreme Court on March 5th said that's not allowed. Get Back With Me asks, do we know why they didn't hold court yesterday? No. There's no... I haven't found any information. Once the trial stream starts, I hope they will address it. It might be that... speculation. It might be that the defense has filed new and amended motions to for a mistrial or for dismissal altogether, because it's so much of the prosecution's case against Mr. Williams is based on their claim that his lyrics reflects the crime. Let's continue. Where were we? One of the security guard testifies as follows. A man later identified as Baker and another man who appeared to be with Baker tried to come back inside, but the guard said that the two men could not come in because the nightclub was closed. An argument ensued, and several security guards pushed the men out the door. Baker and the other man then walked down the breezeway of the strip mall where the nightclub was located, towards the pawn shop. Several security guards, including Head, stood near the door of the nightclub talking. A few minutes later, gunfire rang out from the direction of the pawn shop. It sounded as though there were more than one shooter. Head was shot and he fell to the ground, dead. And here's the thing. The medical examiner who later performed Head's autopsy testified she recovered no bullets or bullet fragments from Head's body. Now that's interesting. More gunfire later erupted right up the street. Yeah, thank you. I am refreshing all the pages about the trial stream. So if I don't catch it immediately, I will just be minutes behind. Oh, you take that back, Sean. Vikings are real. Tai King, I think, still filed a motion based on cell phone data as well. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good catch. Thank you. Good catch. Yeah. Fannie Willis, in her disqualification case, argued to the court that cell phone data used as it was in that hearing is not reliable, which is extraordinary stupid claim from her, because she herself in mid 2021 argued a murder case with that kind of evidence to the court with an expert. And second interesting, the cell phone data guy who looked through all the data for Mr. Roman's lawyer is the same cell phone guy Miss Willis is using in the Young Thug trial. So yeah, that is interesting if she now claims not reliable. Thank you. See. Video recordings from the surveillance cameras at the nightclub showed the following. At 2:04 a.m., a crowd of people filed through the front door to exit the nightclub. Baker, who had a short hairstyle and wore a white t-shirt with black writing on the front, walked outside, followed by a taller man wearing a black shirt and a camouflage ball cap. The two men stood near the door, briefly talked to a woman, and then walked down the breezeway. At 2:06 a.m., Baker and the man in the camouflage cap walked back towards the nightclub together and tried to go inside, but a few security guards stopped them. Baker and one of the security guards argued and then shoved each other, and the man in the cap lunged toward the guards. Baker pulled him back as the security guards pushed Baker and the other man out the door, and it appears that Baker and some of the guards tried to hit each other. Baker then puts his arm around the man in the camouflage cap, and at 2:07, they walked down the breezeway out of view. Several of the security guards, including Head, stood together, talking in front of the door, and approximately 2 minutes later, Head suddenly fell down as blood spattered on the ground near him. Dunn, Crawford's music manager, testified that after the performance that night, he got in his car, and he thought that Crawford, Baker, and the rest of the entourage got in the van, which was still parked behind the nightclub. As Dunn pulled out onto the street following the van, he heard gunshots. He did not see anyone get into the van after he heard the shots. At some point, Dunn asked Baker if he was involved in the shooting, and Baker denied it. Dunn also testified that members of Crawford's entourage typically did not carry guns to Crawford's performances. Now, that's an interesting testimony. And still no, let's see if I can find. While I'm reading this, I am checking the Twitters, the other source. Yeah. Tracy, loving the bonnet. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't have one earlier, because it actually does wonders to my old gray hair. In response to the prosecutor's questions about the Ghetto Angels rap music video, Dunn testified that the song was about the death of Crawford's cousin, who had been shot 17 years earlier. The video showed Baker and several other men waving guns. Hold on. It was nothing. Probably Mr. Jingles just playing with something. The video showed Baker and several other men waving guns. Dunn did not know what kind of gun Baker held or whether any of the guns were real or fake, and Dunn discouraged Crawford for using guns in his music videos. During cross-examination, trial counsel elicited Dunn's testimony that rap artists often use guns in the music videos, quote, to portray that they are somebody deserving of street cred, end quote, and that record labels encouraged the use of guns in music videos. These, yeah, I mean, the similarities, I mean, not the the allegations from the prosecution in the Young Thug is more or less the same. Look at them in videos, they look bad, that means they are bad in real life. On redirect, the prosecutor introduced a 33-second-long portion of the rap music video, which the trial court admitted into evidence over trial counsel's renewed objection, and the prosecutor played the video for the jury. The first few seconds of the video showed Baker waving a black handgun, pointing it at the camera, and motioning as if he was shooting the gun, while 3 other men rapped and made hand gestures. The video then showed Baker, Crawford, and about a dozen other men singing and dancing and on and around a car. Baker waved the black handgun, sometimes pointing at the camera, while some of the men made hand gestures, held bottles of what appears to be alcohol, and brandished guns. In response to further questions from the prosecutor, Dunn identified Baker as one of the men who was, quote, flashing a firearm. Let's see here, checking. As far as I know, the court was scheduled to start at 9:30 a.m. today. To nobody's surprise, they're late. By the way, what time is it? Yeah, we are closing in on 10 a.m. now. Yeah, so that is why I'm currently reading from the Indiana Supreme Court decision to ban the use of lyrics and music videos as evidence. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you haven't given me the thumbs up yet, please do. It really helps me and the channel. Thank you so much. And testified that although Dunn did not condone guns, he could not control whether Crawford's entourage used guns in the music video or whether they carried guns on the night of the shooting. The prosecutor then asked why Crawford promoted gun violence in the video, and Dunn responded that Crawford was not promoting it and that Crawford was simply a rapper. Yeah. The similarities in that case and the Young Thug Rico case is the way the prosecution uses music and lyrics and videos to somehow claim this proves that this also. And you go ahead and watch a gore metal video. Yeah. Or black metal or something like that. The imaging there is quite disturbing at times. Doesn't really mean that... I mean, Alice Cooper, the rock legend, portrays himself on stage and in music as more or less somebody from hell. He is a devoted Christian and he likes playing golf in real life. Another security guard testified that there were no security issues in the nightclub before the altercation with Baker, and that after Baker and the man in the camouflage cap walked towards the pawn shop, gunfire erupted from that direction. He did not see who shot, but the gunfire sounded like it came from multiple guns. I mean, what does that... two people walked in that direction, and minutes later there were gunfire from that direction. I mean, there's a clear, in my opinion, I mean, minutes, okay, I don't know how long it was from the venue to the pawn shop. They were out of sight, and minutes later, according to this, they were out of sight around 4 minutes after 2, and 7 minutes after 2, gunfire was held. Okay, that's 3 minutes. You can get a long ass way in 3 minutes. And anybody who's ever had a grudge against a security guard could have popped out, in my opinion. But that's my opinion. I don't know much about this case the Indiana Supreme Court decided on. But they did decide that showing that music video, even a portion of it, was more prejudicial than probative. And remember, in this trial, in the Young Thug trial, the prosecution has so much the video, lyrics. Miss Love read out lyrics, and the Judge Glanville, after Mr. Steele, wanted to play the video in context, denied it. Dear Liz back. Dear Liz is back. I don't. Are they having trial today? It is scheduled, but it was scheduled to start half an hour ago. So still waiting, and I have several checking points. They are supposed to start with a motions hearing and then resume witness testimony. But when it starts, don't know with this judge. So while we wait, I'm reading the Indiana Supreme Court decision. Let's see here. A patron of the nightclub testified that shortly before the shots were fired, she was standing in the breezeway with her sister when 2 men walked past her toward a pawn shop. One wore a white shirt. The other man, who was taller, wore a black shorts and had his arm around the man in the white shirt. She heard of them say something like, "Don't worry about it, we're going to get them." That's hearsay, in my opinion, but okay. She then got in a car with her sister and heard gunshots, but she could not tell from which direction they came, and she did not see a shooter. Hello, Linda Everson. Hello. There's a lot of, in this case here, the Baker case, it seems to be a lot of assumption. Rob Mill is, am I wearing a do-rag? No, I'm wearing a bonnet. Drunk me got me a golden bonnet. And I'm having so much fun with it. Let's see here. Anything new happen? Nope. Let's see if I can. Dun, dun, dun. Nope, nothing yet as far as I can see. So let's keep going. The sister similarly testified that 2 men walked past her toward the pawn shop as she stood in the breezeway. Moments before the shooting, one of the men wore a white t-shirt and the other wore a black t-shirt. Apparently, she did not hear anybody of them say anything, which is interesting because the sisters stood close together. An off-duty police officer who was hired to provide security in the parking lot of the nightclub testified that after the nightclub closed, he heard gunshots that sounded like they were fired from multiple guns, and he saw muzzle flashes near the pawn shop. I mean, how close was that pawn shop from the club? And still, if 3 minutes of walking, say it was 50 yards away, how long can you actually walk? I mean, if they walked out of the nightclub, passed these two sisters, who must have been in somewhere close to the club, and kept walking kept walking out of sight. That's a long ass distance for a handgun. I mean, a handgun is basically ineffective after 50 yards. Then it's an unlucky shot if you hit anything. He saw muzzle flashes near the pawn shop. A few moments later, he heard another set of gunshots, which sounded as if a shooter was driving around outside the nightclub. Okay, here we have an interesting footnote. A third woman who was with the sisters that night said that she heard gunshots, followed by another set of gunshots coming from the direction of the pawn shop. She thought the shots came from only one gun, and she did not see who shot. Okay. He told investigators at the scene that he saw a shooter who wore a light colored shirt and a ball cap near the pawn shop. At trial, he testified that he did not see a shooter or recall describing a shooter to investigators, but he insisted that he told investigators what he told investigators was definitely the truth. Okay. That's and that was the off-duty officer who testified to this. First, he saw a shooter who wore a light-colored shirt and a ball cap. He told the investigators. But at trial, I have no idea. That was an off-duty officer who can't. I mean, yeah. Refreshing. Okay. Oh, okay. News about today's trial. They will start at noon. Oh, all right. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so they will start at noon. Here, let's just... I can continue reading so you get something from your effort to showing up here. But I don't want to wait. I mean, read all the way to lunch. What time is it? That's another 2 hours. That's a bit too much. I will keep reading for a full hour, so another 25 minutes. So you get some worth from this. But yeah, trial starts at noon, so I will set up another stream for that for the actual trial day, and I will change this stream, change the thumbnail and stuff. Okay, but now we know. Let's put a banner up. So, well, dun, dun, dun. Let's see there. Okay, but I will read for another 25 minutes, close down this stream, and then set up another new stream for that one. Okay, yeah, let's keep reading. Bump. Another patron, oh god, do I have to pronounce that? La Destiny or Oglesby, I'm sorry for butchering your name, testifies as follows. She was standing near her car, which was parked in front of the pawn shop, when two men in the breezeway by the shop began shooting handguns in the direction of the nightclub. So there's a discrepancy between the witnesses. Some say one shooter, some say two shooters. One of the shooters was short, had short hair, light skin, and a tattoo on his left arm. and wore a white shirt with writing on the front. That's very specific, considering that the off-duty officer who is trained to observe didn't see that. But, okay. The other shooter was tall, had dark skin, and wore dark shirt and dark hat. When the men stopped shooting, they ran to a dark van that was parked on the side of the strip mall near the pawn shop. Okay, that sounds like these two, but we already had Mr. Dunn earlier saying nobody got in the van after they started driving. So the prosecutor played the surveillance recordings showing the altercation among Baker, the man in the camouflage cap, and the security guards. And Oglesby identified Baker and the man in the camouflage cap as the shooters. Okay. She also testified when the lead detective for the case interviewed her and showed her the surveillance recordings. She similarly identified Baker and the man in the camouflage cap as the shooters. That's not how you are. That's not how you are supposed to identify suspects. If you... Oh, Jesus. Seriously? That's not how you don't show the surveillance recordings. You seriously? What's going on? The lead detective testified that when Oglesby spoke to an investigator on the day of the shooting, she gave a description of who ... she saw shooting. The lead detective did not elaborate further about that description. 2 days later, on July 8th, the lead detective showed Oglesby a photo lineup that did not include a photo of Baker, and she did not identify any of the photos in the lineup as a photo of the shooter. That is horrible. First, he showed her the surveillance video, and then he showed her the photo lineup. That's horrible. That's not how any lineup is supposed to be. Thank you, Linda. Loving me my accent. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all for staying here. I assume we are all waiting for the Young Thug trial to begin today. That starts at noon 12:30, something around that sort. I'm reading from the Georgia... Oh, misspelled Georgia, sorry. Supreme Court decision. There. To exclude that you're not allowed to have music videos or lyrics in as evidence in trial. So that's what I'm doing for another 20 minutes. Then I will close this down and start a new stream for today's hearing or today's trial. Any breaks in that trial, I will resume reading this. The lead detective interviewed Oglesby again that day, and she said that she saw two shooters. One of the shooters was short, had light skin and a tattoo on his left arm, and wore a white t-shirt, and the other shooter wore a dark shirt and dark hat. No wonder she testifies about it. He showed her the surveillance video of them. That is textbook planting a memory in someone. That should have been excluded by itself. When the detective... Footnote. Oglesby also testified that in the weeks before trial, she had been arrested for a misdemeanor ticket for driving on a suspended license and for failing to report to her probation officer. The district attorney's office arranged for her release from jail so she could prepare to testify. Welcome to Georgia. Her charges were still pending at the time of trial. Oh, you asswipe prosecutor. You cut her a deal so she could testify as you wanted. This was more or less a prison snitch, which, if you've been here before, you know my opinions about prison snitches. Jesus Christ. When the detective interviewed her again on August 21st, he showed her the surveillance recordings from the nightclub, and Oglesby identified the two men who fought with security guards as the shooters. But here... seriously? This is so wrong. This is so wrong. While reviewing social media posts associated with Crawford, the lead detective found the Ghetto Angels rap music video. He determined that one of the men in the video was the same man shown on the surveillance recordings of the altercation with the security guards, and he eventually learned that the man was Baker. This is the same as the lead detective in this case. What's his face? I don't care. Who found social media posts, or in other words, he was given social media posts by the prosecution. I'm almost certain this is what happened in this trial as well. The prosecutor then played the rap music video for the jury again. Again. Repeated mistake. The detective identified Crawford and Baker in the video, saying that Baker was holding what appeared to be a firearm. On cross-examination, defense counsel tendered into evidence and played for the jury a video recording of Orr Oglesby's August 21st interview. And the detective acknowledged that Orr Oglesby said during that interview that she didn't think the light-skinned guy was shooting. So she changed her testimony to fit the narrative after she was cut a deal by the prosecutor. Footnote 9. During the remainder of the interview, Orr Oglesby repeatedly referred to two shooters and gave descriptions of them that were consistent with the description she gave at trial. Defense counsel asked Orr Oglesby during the cross-examination if she told the lead detective that she didn't think the light-skinned guy was shooting, and Orr Oglesby stated that she did not remember saying that, and that she always said there were two people shooting. Yeah, no. The prosecutor tendered into evidence a photo of Baker that was taken while he was on stage with Crawford on the night of the shooting. The photo showed that Baker had short hair and a tattoo on his left arm and wore a white t-shirt with writing on it, as the police officer showed her on the surveillance video, planting that memory, in my opinion. Forensic testing showed that Baker's fingerprints were on two plastic cups found in the VIP room of the nightclub. We already know who was there. A crime scene investigator found 7 .45 caliber shell casings and 15 9mm shell casings near the pawn shop. A firearms examiner later determined that all of the 45 caliber shell casings were fired from the same gun, although he could not determine the make and model of the gun. Not even the toolmark guy could give a definitive answer, and when they can't, you know it is completely garbage as evidence, in my opinion. And all of the 9mm shell casings was fired from the same Smith & Wesson 9mm pistol. Investigators did not recover the guns used in the shooting, nor did they determine the identity of the man in the camouflage cap. The defense presented testimony from two witnesses who saw shots fired in the area surrounding the nightclub around 2 a.m. near the time of the shooting in the case. One of the witnesses testified that his truck was hit by a bullet as he was driving at the corner down the street from the nightclub, but he could not tell where the shots came from. The other witness testified that he saw shots fired from 3 vehicles. a black truck, a white Toyota Solara, and a SUV about a block away from the nightclub. How about that? How about that? The defense also presented a surveillance video recording from the nightclub that showed that about 30 minutes before the shooting in this case, a security guard escorted an unidentified man in a white t-shirt out of the nightclub and into the parking lot. So there were more than one person who had a grudge that very night. Baker testified in his own defense as follows. After Crawford, his close friend since childhood, performed on the night of the shooting, Baker went out the front door of the nightclub to look for a woman he had talked with earlier that night. The man in the camouflage cap, whom Baker did not know, but had seen in the VIP room at the nightclub earlier, followed him outside and tried to latch on to him because the man wanted to take a photo with Crawford. Baker, with the man beside him, briefly spoke to the woman and then walked down the breezeway to look for someone else. The man in the cap followed him. Baker eventually decided to go to the van, which was parked behind the nightclub, so he tried to go back inside, and the man again followed him. When a security guard told Baker that he could not come in, Baker was angry and asked what the problem was. The security guard pushed him, and the man in the cap began yelling. Several security guards pushed Baker and the man out the door, and the man ran past Baker to fight with the guards. Baker pulled the man back and stepped between the man and the security guard. A guard punched Baker in the face as he tried to break up the fight. I wonder what that surveillance video actually looked like. Baker and the man then walked down the breezeway, and the man asked Baker if he was all right. Baker replied that he was, and then walked around the side of the strip mall to the parking lot behind the nightclub, where the van was parked, as the man in the cap walked in a different direction. According to Baker, he wanted to distance himself from the man because the man had escalated the situation with the security guard. Baker then got in the van, which drove away moments later. As the van turned onto the street in front of the nightclub, Baker heard gunshots. The van then drove to Atlanta, where Baker and others in the entourage stayed overnight. Although Crawford was scheduled to perform in Tupelo, Mississippi the next night, Baker did not travel there and did not continue touring with Crawford because Baker wanted to go home to see his infant daughter. Baker squarely denied having a gun that night or being involved in the shooting. I mean, just reading this without looking at that trial, the case from the prosecution seems weak. Very weak. Because this is a plausible explanation. There is video of a man with similar build, with a similar white t-shirt, half an hour before this was showed out the door. We don't know if he had a grudge. And 3 minutes is a really long time. On cross-examination, Baker testified that he put his arm around the man in the camouflage cap as they walked down the breezeway because Baker was trying to de-escalate the situation, since the man was still angry. The prosecutor asked whether the entourage traveled with guns, and Baker responded, "Why would we, though?" The prosecutor said, "Well, let's see why, and then play the rap music video again." See, so much of this case here, the Baker case, the prosecution is using music video and lyric to somehow prove a point, which according to the Georgia Supreme Court, March 5th of this year, said, no, you're not allowed to do that. Because music video, free speech. In response to the prosecutor's questions about the video, Baker testified that he did not produce the video, that it was about losing loved ones, that he thought he had a Glock gun in the video. He did not know what kind of Glock it was. It was not his gun, and he used it in the video because he was trying to look cool. Yeah. When the prosecutor asked why that made him look cool, Baker responded, "In the music industry, in my age group, you do whatever you think will sell, such as if I was to say I was a country music artist, I probably don't like cowboy hats or cowboy boots, but I will wear it if I think it's going to help my country music sell." Yeah. The prosecutor asked why Baker was promoting gun violence in the video, and he replied that he was not promoting it and was just trying to be cool. The prosecutor then rewound the video and paused it at a point where it depicted Baker. She asked him if the shirt he was wearing said "Loyalty is love," and he replied that he did not know. Later, the prosecutor referenced the photo showing Baker on stage with Crawford gesturing as if he was pointing a gun, and asked if Baker was portraying a shooter. Oh, you absolute... Yeah, I mean, you can do this, you can do this. I mean, nah. My grandpa, who's no longer, who hasn't been, he died 30 years ago, 35 years ago. Back then, he said he didn't, oh, this is going to sound so racist, but he said he didn't watch MTV because he did not like this black man pointing at him. He might not have used the words black man when he said it. Yeah, that's another generation. What to do. Baker portraying a shooter, just like in the video we just watched with a real gun. Baker replied that he was just trying to be cool. The state's theory of the case was that the man in the camouflage cap was a part of Crawford's entourage. The man and Baker shot towards the security guards, killed Head, then after the altercation at the door of the nightclub, and then they fled in the van with the rest of the entourage. During closing argument, defense counsel argued that Oglesby's testimony was not credible because she told the lead detective that the light-skinned man did not shoot, and because she testified that the van was parked on the side of the strip mall, whereas other witnesses testified that it was parked behind the nightclub, and alternatively that the shooter in the white shirt was someone else, as the evidence showed that shootings were frequent in that area. How about that? As to the rap music video, defense counsel argued that the video was a performance that merely showed Baker wanting to act cool. The prosecutor argued in closing that Oglesby was credible, that the testimony that there were two shooters was supported by the ballistic evidence, that the given undisputed evidence showing that Baker wore a white t-shirt that night, and that he fought with the security guard. It was improbable that the man in the cap began shooting with a different person who also happened to be wearing a white t-shirt. Oglesby, prison snitch of sorts. No prison snitches are credible because they have, and I've said this before and I will say it again, prison snitches cannot be credible because they have nothing to lose by lying in court. If they are believed, they get a lighter sentence. If they're not believed, they are right where they started. Nothing will change if they are caught lying in court. But they have all the reasons to lie in court, in my opinion. And that the evidence that Baker did not continue touring with Crawford after the shooting allowed an inference of guilt. That's stupid. He had an infant at home. That's... The prosecution also asserted that Baker's testimony that he did not have a gun on the night of the shooting was not credible because they don't rule out that. You have to, that's the evidence of them having guns with them. They don't roll like that. Oh. She went on, use your common sense. As you now know why you can say they don't roll like that. Go back to the Ghetto Angels videos, right? That's all they know, the gun violence. They want to promote it. They want to live by the sword, but they don't want to die by it, right? When it's not convenient, they don't want to act like they promote the shooting. That's horribly stupid. How do people believe... Oh, near the end of her argument, she asserted that this gun violence needs to stop. Oh, you asswipe. You asswipe. That's not... I hope there was an objection to that, because this gun violence needs to stop is pointed towards a greater good or a greater evil, which is not allowed, because you have to find the evidence in this specific case. You can't think of what's going to happen if I don't do this, what's going to happen if I do this. That's not allowed, in my opinion. She then said, we're better than that. We're better than that. Your job is to return a verdict. She closed by saying the truth is it's time to tell Morgan Baker that we're going to hold him accountable for exactly what he did that night. I really want to... I wonder if that trial is shown somewhere when that happened. That we're going to hold him accountable for ending a human life. That it's not a game. It's not about a rap video. It's real. As mentioned above, the jury... As mentioned above, the jury found Baker guilty of malice murder, among other crimes, and he was sentenced to serve life in prison. Okay. All right, we are at 59 minutes. We found out that the Youngthal trial, will start at noon or 12:30, depending on when Judge Glanville decides to show up, I guess. I don't know. So what will happen now is I will close this stream down and I will set up a new trial stream for today's hearing. And during the breaks, I will continue reading from this. So I will change the thumbnail and stuff like that on this stream. But yeah, I will set that up, and I will see you all back here around noon, 12:30. Okay. Thank you all for showing up. There's been a good bunch of you here. So I hope I will see you all back here in a couple of hours. All right. See you later, folks. Bye-bye.